Welcome back. All right, I want to say at the start of this, I am wearing a Latvia jersey that a subscriber worked really hard for a long time to get for me. And I've been trying to figure out how to, do a video about that. But since I've had this jersey for a while now, I figured, you know what, I'll wear it in a video that I do on the channel. I'll make sure I wear it a couple more times during the summer. Has nothing to do with the subject matter in this. It's just I've always loved the Latvia jersey. And it was about a year and a half, 2 year journey that this jersey took before I got it. So again, full respect to the subscriber who found this and got it to me. Thank you very much. I will reserve the right to use this during the summer games if there's a Latvian that does well at the summer games. Now I wanted to talk about the rumor mill. I've talked about this before, and I feel like now there's a gray area when it comes to reporting on rumors. There are some who report on rumors that they use actual sourced articles for what they're talking about. So why would you get Markstrom? Could they have got Ullmark? Okay, well, there's a conversation over here about whether or not New Jersey could have got Ullmark instead of Markstrom, and why would you go with Markstrom? And those are fun discussions. Those I'm not saying anything but fun discussions. And then there are obviously the discussions of players that we know are likely on their way to town. So right now with the Rangers, there's a lot of talk about Trouba. And did he block a trade? And who did he block a trade to? And this is where the speculation gets in. And then it gets kind of murky. So it can get kind of murky when you get to these websites that I visited. A lot of them are just on Facebook or they're formerly known as Twitter. And they'll have a page that has a lot of followers. And because I am a follower of a lot of things hockey, especially on Facebook, it'll suggest. Facebook becomes less and less useful every single day. I wish I could just get rid of it, but because I have this channel and because my wife's on Facebook and we often post pictures and stuff, I'm on Facebook. But I'm not happy about it. I'd rather be doing something else than Facebook because the feed is no longer useful. But part of it is I get recommended all these rumors. And I'm like, what? And it'll be, Trouba to Toronto confirmed. Stuff like that. I'm just using it as an example. And I'm like, no. Now, I'm going to say this too. People are going to say, he's talking about Hockey Buzz. He's talking about Eklund and Hockey Buzz. No. Many years back, Eklund was one of the ones, and Hockey Buzz was one of the ones that did a lot of rumors. But there's a lot of others now that have got into the rumor business, and it's a business. It absolutely is. It's an attempt to make money selling speculation. Now, they won't necessarily use sources. I have no doubts that in some cases somebody might have a source within a team, right? But it gets murky. So what I've noticed is there are rumors that there's rules to. And I was going to do, before we got to free agency, sort of a rumor adjacent type video where I could say, okay, this is what these teams need. This is what their cap space is. Can we speculate on where these guys are going to go and see if we have any accuracy to it? I've done a video on that before, a few years ago. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago now. But you can absolutely do this. So what you have to do is you look at who has an expiring deal. In this day and age, trading out a pending UFA is common. So if you see a team that's in a rebuild and there's a pending UFA, you can probably take that player, plug their name into the rumor mill, and have a pretty good idea that they're likely going to be moving on before the end of the season unless they sign an extension. And then you'll get the ones that reportedly want out. So you'll hear like a Chris Johnston report somebody wants out. Maybe Alan Walsh tweets out something about one of his clients to make it sound like, okay, that guy's clearly on his way out of there. So these websites or these pages on Facebook too, and again, clearly there's a whole ecosystem of this now where they'll take that and go, okay, this guy wants out. Everybody's looking for that name right now, so we'll plug that in there. And we'll get the clicks on that, right? So you go with somebody who reportedly wants out or is on an expiring deal. You have a good chance of being right then when they end up getting moved. And then you look for what the other team's needs are. And we talk about this. The discussion yesterday at the meetup. A lot of discussion of what do the Canucks need. And my answer is the same. I think they need one more top four defenseman. I think the forward group's all right. Goaltending will probably be fine. They need a top four defenseman. So if you are running one of these pages or sites, you could plug in Canucks seeking top four defenseman. And you're not going to be wrong because odds are they're very likely looking for a top four defenseman. The problem is, of course, you have the salary cap, who you're going to be able to get. The market, of course, is very, very thin. So you're not going to find a top four defenseman on the current marketplace because if there was a top four defenseman out there, he would have been signed already. So then you're looking and saying, okay, so we know that the Canucks need a top four defenseman. Who in the league has too many defensemen, or has a guy that might be on the outs that might be of Vancouver's interest? So then you can look and say, okay, you can go further. Okay, the Flames are rebuilding. Who's got an expiring contract? Is it a defenseman? We could tie him to the Canucks. There you go. So you've started one that sounds plausible. The most important thing with the rumors is to make it sound plausible. Usually, there are times where I'll read a headline and go, man, I lost IQ points just reading that headline because I'm old. So, and the one thing to keep in mind is, does the team have the required cap space for the player? If they don't, you can just manufacture it as, we believe it'll be 50% retention and the third party's getting involved. If not, if you don't care, you don't care. There's times where I've seen a rumor and seen a headline, mistakenly clicked on an article and regretted immediately with pop-ups all over the place. How are those still on the internet? How do we still have pop-up ads? Anyways, but the required cap space, if you're not worried about it, well, then don't worry about it, right? And in some cases, they're not. Now, when you're tying a player to a team, the most important thing is you're trying to get people to click on it. So if you want people to click on it, you can say the Leafs are reportedly interested. The Rangers are reportedly interested. Right now, a hot one to put up is the Wings are interested. And so you can get the most clicks from some teams, and there are some teams that no matter what you talk about with them, that's not necessarily going to get clicks. So I'm going to go through and grab other teams that generate the most. Montreal, very much so, and I say this from somebody who's run a channel for 8 years. And then out of that, obviously the Oilers would draw a lot. Like the Canadian teams draw a lot of traffic. Vegas does not. Calgary right now, with where Calgary is, I'm going to put them under medium because Calgary, I don't think that with the fact they're in a rebuild, people are as interested in what they're doing day to day as they are with Edmonton. Boston, I would put under the medium as well. Buffalo right now doesn't draw. Florida, with their Stanley Cup win, they go under medium. Ottawa as well. I know they're Canadian, but I'd put them under medium. Tampa Bay, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're going to talk about them being over the salary cap or maybe using LTIR, you're going to get a lot of clicks. In general, Tampa Bay I would put into the medium. The Islanders, I'd put down into the few. The Penguins, is it about Crosby? Is it about Malkin? If the answer is no, I'd put that under medium. New Jersey, it's between few and medium for me. I'll go with medium. I'm going to go ahead and clear up that the Ducks right now are at few. The Sharks are at few as well. The Jets, I'd put medium. Columbus, I would put few. You know what's funny, though, is last time that I talked about how Columbus didn't draw, somebody clearly posted somewhere that Shannon says nobody watches Columbus videos, and then that video got a bunch of views, and they went, see what we did? Yeah, I got more views. Thanks. But in general, if I don't mention it, Columbus generally doesn't draw that many views. The Abs, I'd say are around medium. Carolina, it doesn't matter how well they're doing. Doesn't draw a lot of attention. The Flyers, medium. The Capitals, if it's about Ovechkin, it goes at the top. If it's not, I'd put it there. Seattle, right in the mushy middle. Nashville, yep, mushy middle. Vegas at this point, honestly, I'm going to put down here. Because, again, what I've noticed personally is that if I do a video on Vegas, it just doesn't draw that much attention, comparatively speaking, with previous seasons. The LA Kings, medium. Chicago will draw. Chicago, the addition of Bedard and everybody, whether they're hate clicks or whatever they are, if you mention Chicago, that's going to get a draw for you. Dallas right now, I'd put in the middle. Minnesota, middle. Utah's here right now. By the time we reach the middle of the season, I think they'll be here. And St. Louis, I'd put right in the middle. So, coming back to what I'm talking about here, you're trying to generate a rumor that's going to get some attention. So, you're going to put, I would say, a minimum of one of these teams into it. But you don't want to look like you're just going for clicks. So, you'll have the Leafs, but then you'll have Seattle in there, and maybe something on San Jose or Columbus. And that way people could look and go, well, I mean, I get overexposure to the Leafs, and there is overexposure of the Leafs. There absolutely is. But you could also look and say, all right, well, but there's something here on Seattle. Well, I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Especially, it might be something vague. It might be something vague. Sometimes what I've noticed with these pages that are is that it will be extremely vague, and yet the article headline makes it sound like they're going to tell you something really profound, and then there's just not much to it. There's not much there. Every now and then somebody will say, why isn't he talking about the Jacob Trouba stuff that's going on? Because there's nothing happening right now that I've seen from sources that are saying this is going to happen. This is imminent, right? So as long as that's out there, do I think Trouba gets moved? I think there's a game of chess going back and forth between the player and the team. Could he get moved before the season? Absolutely. But it will likely be a team that Trouba wants to go to, right? That's where I feel that it is. But again, I will say that is my feeling and my opinion on it. And it may very well not end up being the case. Maybe Trouba stays with the Rangers. Maybe he doesn't. But there are some pages out there that have a lot of followers that I don't feel like are quite as scrupulous as some others. When I'm reporting on things and videos, it's going to be something that I've seen from an actual, like, and insider is not a term that I think it gets thrown around a lot. An insider can just be he's got 3 or 4 people within, maybe 4 different teams who give information to them. It doesn't necessarily mean like all 32 teams you have sources for. I do think Friedman has sources with all 32 teams, though. I think there are some that are that connected. The tricky part that comes into this is, and I'll go back to Friedman, there are times he'll say, I am hearing this player. Torrey Krug last summer. Let's just say Torrey Krug's going back to Boston. And Friedman reports hearing discussions have picked up between St. Louis and Boston regarding Torrey Krug and him maybe going home. And then it doesn't happen. And then immediately the internet's going to be like, see, he doesn't know. He thought he knew and he didn't know. But those trade talks may be taking place, but they may be fruitless. Or maybe Torrey Krug says, look, I'm not going back to Boston. I don't want to go back, right? And so then people attack him. And then what that does is it gives more credence then to the other websites that are, again, maybe not as scrupulous when it comes to weeding out what's real and what isn't when it comes to rumors and all of this. And it has to get especially difficult in July and August when I would think the phones right now are pretty quiet. There might be some GMs that are working the phones right now. I don't get the feeling that there's a lot. If the reporters for the NHL are on vacation and they're perfectly comfortable going on vacation, it's because this is usually the time of year where things are kind of slow. There's not usually a lot of trades in July. It does happen occasionally, but not usually. August, we do see trades in August as teams are getting ready for training camp, or maybe a GM's looking at their depth chart and going, okay, we got to fix this. But there's no rush in July. So there isn't usually a lot of stuff going on. So it feels like some of the websites I'm talking about here might get a little more desperate. And the reason I'm doing this is simple is I get asked a lot of questions, especially via live stream, about what do you think's happening, and I've heard this and I've heard this. And people will mention things, and I'm like, I don't know where they're getting that. And again, when we have meetups, I'll hear that too. I heard this and this. Again, there's a lot of rumors out there. Very, very, very few are going to end up coming through, and they're going to end up being the truth. I know that looking at July the 1st, I was mildly surprised. Puckpedia actually broke a couple of the signings, telling me that the guys that are involved with Puckpedia, there's at least one that's got some sources with an NHL team, or maybe they know an agent. But I definitely think that a majority of what we see on the internet right now is smoke and mirrors, because it is the middle of summer. People aren't thinking about hockey as much, and for me, it's weird because I'll do the videos during the off season. I enjoy doing the videos during the off season, but it's a very different feeling I have during the off season. There's no rush. There's no rush. I'm not like, oh God, there's games starting in 10 minutes. I have to do a news video right now. That's gone, right? So there's a more relaxed THG that you see during the off season, and even though I know view counts drop, because they do. View counts drop way off during July and August. It's just the reality of it. There's not a whole lot that I can do on this end, and I'm not going to resort to again, some of the more unscrupulous. And I feel bad because there are some legitimate websites out there that provide this information. They do their best to be accurate. And I feel like the bad actors in this space make it look bad for everybody else. The ones that are just reporting willy nilly on whatever, oh, Freddie Anderson's going to go to Winnipeg and Connor Hellebuck's going to go to the Islanders. And we're hearing that Bobrovsky's contract, Florida's trading that to Tampa, and Vasilevsky's going to Florida. Like, just ridiculousness. And it really is about those page impressions, those clicks. And so you'll tie it to a team, or you'll make it, like I just said, really sensationalistic where people have to click on it. So one thing, and I didn't factor into this board, but it has to be at least a recognizable big name. So top 4 defenseman or top 6 forward, which again, I feel like that's it's understandable because they're looking for the traffic, but it doesn't do anything for me. I don't bother with it so much. But the reason I'm doing this video is it feels like it has really picked up lately. Jay Fresh talked about this a little bit today on Twitter/X. Just making just a very blanket comment about, oh, I heard this and this is happening. And people guessed what website or what page that he was talking about. And there was a lot of suggestions. So I just wanted to talk about this for a bit. I did double check on the channel. I have not talked about this in quite some time. I just wanted to throw this out there that, yeah, the gossip in the hockey world picks up during the off season. Very, very likely that very, very little of what gets reported on those sites comes through. Except for, as I said, there are some that actually do their due diligence and, seem to have a pretty good following and seem to know what they're doing and don't get sensationalistic with the headlines and crazy. But there are definitely those that do. And those are ones that I steer clear of. I don't block the pages or anything, but I will, click that I don't want to see this, which Facebook usually seems to read as, oh, you want more. I don't. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.